Financial collapse. After Diana E. and her accomplices drained almost $2,000 from N's account, something inside her broke. The tears dried up quickly, leaving behind only a scorched desert of fury. Self-pity turned into a cold, steel-like determination. This was no longer a story about a victim. This was a story about a hunter. The Stop Scam Now group still met in the same community center, but the atmosphere had changed drastically. The women's stories of loss were no longer filled with helpless pain. Now a metallic note of anger could be felt in every word. And standing before them was no longer just a compassionate leader. The fire of retribution burned in her eyes. They took our money, our peace of mind, our faith in people. Her voice sounded firm and confident. Just complaining is not enough. The police are powerless, the laws are slow. We will not wait for justice. We will create it. We will hit them where it hurts the most. In their wallets. Her son, Michael, sat in the corner with his laptop. His usual teenage fascination with games had transformed into an obsession with cybersecurity. He became her main weapon. David, her beloved, watched and with a mixture of anxiety and unconcealed admiration. He saw how her energy, which used to be directed at caring for others, was now focused into one powerful, destructive beam. And, frankly, it turned him on. He didn't see a broken woman, but a queen preparing for war. The first step of revenge was simple and brilliant. They realized that scammers use money mules, people whose accounts are used to launder stolen funds. Michael, after analyzing dozens of transactions collected by the group members, discovered a pattern. He found several accounts that constantly appeared in the schemes. Instead of going to the police and proposed a different plan, they started their own operation. Using social engineering, one of the women from the group, a former actress, called one of the mules, pretending to be a bank security employee. She created such a panic, talking about suspicious activity and the threat of blocking all assets, that the frightened account owner, without a second thought, transferred all the funds to a secure reserve account, the details of which, of course, were provided by Michael. It was an account opened under a fake name in another country, from which the money was instantly converted into cryptocurrency and disappeared. This was their first victory. They didn't just get some of the money back, they used the enemy's tactics against them. As a next step, Michael developed a program that tracked the online exchangers used by the scammers to convert cryptocurrency. By creating dozens of fake exchange requests, they caused chaos in the system, forcing the exchangers to temporarily block transactions associated with the scammers' wallets. It was like cutting off their oxygen supply. David, using his business connections, anonymously leaked information about the shady payment systems to several major financial bloggers. The reputation attack worked. Systems that valued their name began their own investigations and massively blocked accounts linked to the networks Michael had uncovered. And sat with Michael and David, watching on the screen as their tormentors' financial infrastructure crumbled. It wasn't about getting the money back. It was about power. They saw the panicked messages on the private scammer forums that Michael was monitoring. They read about their losses. And every such message was sweeter than any compensation. And smiled a cold, satisfied smile. The first stage of revenge was complete. They had proven they could inflict pain. Now it was time to make that pain personal. Public destruction. After the financial blow, the scam network went quiet for a while. They had lost money, but the main organizers remained in the shadows, confident in their anonymity. It was this confidence that N decided to destroy next. If the first method was a surgical strike on their assets, the second was to be a public execution of their reputation and personal life. They hide behind fake names and avatars, feeling like gods, and said at the next meeting of her army of Avengers. They think we only see shadows. It's time to turn on the lights and show everyone their real faces. We won't just tell what they did. We will show who they are. Michael delved into the darkest corners of the internet. This was no longer just analysis, but a real digital hunt. He used every clue, IP addresses, metadata from photos, random mentions on forgotten forums. He hacked into their cloud storages, where they carelessly stored personal photos, copies of documents, and correspondence. He was a ghost in their system, and they had no idea he existed. The first target was Diana E. herself. After a few sleepless nights, Michael found her. Her real name was Laura Jensen, living in a small town in Eastern Europe. She led a double life, by day, a respectable neighbor and loving mother, by night, a ruthless scammer. Michael found her social media profiles, photos with her family, a Facebook page where she complained about bad roads and posted apple pie recipes. David proposed a strategy. They couldn't just publish everything on the internet, it would be illegal and could backfire on them. They needed a tool. And they created it. A website called the Scammers' Wall of Shame. The design was deliberately brutal and accusatory. On the main page of the site, a huge portrait of Laura Diana appeared. Below it, her real name, address, and links to her social media. Then came the evidence, recordings of conversations with victims, and the other women had deliberately recorded all calls, screenshots of chats, and a detailed description of her scam scheme. But that was just the beginning. They added photos of her house, her car, and even a picture of her with her child at a playground. The message was clear: we know who you are. We know where you live. You are no longer anonymous. With David's help, the link to the site was leaked through anonymous channels to investigative journalists and local news groups in the town where Laura lived. The effect was like a bomb explosion. Within a day, the whole town was buzzing. Neighbors who had greeted her warmly the day before now crossed to the other side of the street. Her child started being bullied at the local school. Her husband, who perhaps knew nothing, found himself at the center of a public scandal. And Michael and David sat in front of the monitor, refreshing local forum pages and reading comments filled with hatred and contempt for Laura. They watched her perfect world crumble in real time. She deleted her profiles, but it was too late, the screenshots had already spread across the web. This was the second stage of revenge, not just taking their money, but taking their name, reputation, and peaceful life. They repeated this with several other key figures in the network that Michael had tracked down. The Wall of Shame was updated with new faces. Each new publication was an act of triumph for Anne and her group. They saw not just punishment, but just retribution, as the predators hiding in the shadows were dragged into the light and torn apart by the crowd. And felt a cruel satisfaction. She made them feel what their victims felt, humiliation and powerlessness. But even this was not enough. A final chord was needed. Psychological warfare. After the financial collapse and public humiliation, the remnants of the scam network were demoralized and frightened. They became paranoid, suspecting each other of betrayal. It was this state that Anne decided to use for the final, most sophisticated blow. The goal was no longer to punish, but to break them psychologically, to make them destroy what was left of their organization themselves. We took their money and their reputation. Now we will take their minds, Anne announced at a meeting. Her eyes burned with a strange, almost crazed fire. They played on our emotions, on trust and fear. We will play on their paranoia and greed. We will create a theater of the absurd for them, where they will be both the actors and the victims. The plan was audacious. They decided to stage a reverse scam. David, using his resources, created a legend about an incredibly wealthy, eccentric investor from Asia who was looking for a place to invest gray money and was willing to cooperate with people who know how to work outside the law. The legend was supported by fake websites, purchased articles in second-rate business publications, and social media profiles. Michael, in turn, accidentally leaked information about this investor to the shadow forums where the remnants of the scam group still communicated. The bait was perfect, the promise of a huge score, a chance to recover what was lost, and to get revenge on their unknown enemies. The scammers took the bait. The game began. The role of the investor's representative was taken by the same actress from Anne's group. She negotiated with them, making strange and contradictory demands. To prove their reliability, the scammers had to complete a series of tasks. At first they were minor, to provide detailed information about their past operations, which Michael immediately used to identify their accomplices. Then the tasks became more and more absurd. They were instructed to send each other strange coded messages to check communication channels, which actually sowed more distrust among them. The pinnacle of the psychological warfare was the final stage of the deal. They were told that to transfer the first tranche of several $1,000,000, they had to gather in one place, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of a European city. And each had to bring all the cash they had left as a trust deposit. Greed overcame paranoia. At the appointed time, several key figures of the network arrived at the location. They waited for hours. No representative, no money. Instead, an old projector, set up by Michael in advance, began to display images. It was their faces from the wall of shame, recordings of their conversations, screenshots of their panicked messages. And then Anne's face appeared on the screen. She didn't scream or threaten. She just calmly and coldly told them how she had destroyed their world step by step. How she had played them like puppets. She told them about their every move, about every hope she had given them, only to take it away. You thought you were hunting the weak, her voice echoed from the speakers in the empty warehouse. But you are just hungry rats who have fallen into a trap designed by those you despised. Money? Reputation? That's all nothing. I wanted to see you devour each other for a glimmer of hope. And you did. The game is over. You lost. The projector went dark. In the ensuing silence, the scammers looked at each other, accusingly, with hatred and animalistic fear. They realized they hadn't just been robbed or exposed. They had been crushed, played, and deprived of the last thing they had, the illusion of their own cunning. Anne, David, and Michael watched this scene through a hidden camera. There was a smile on her face. Not a happy one, but a tired and empty one, yet it was the smile of a winner. The revenge was complete. She didn't get back the piece they had taken from her. Instead, she found something else, a chilling satisfaction in knowing that her tormentors were permanently broken. And that was enough.